This week on Pit Stop with Don and James, we praise Williams for their efforts. I wear a new hat, and we solve the point system in Formula One.
Going or me?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm James.
And I'm Don.
Hey man, it's good to be back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Welcome back.
I know it's been a long 2 weeks. Patrick filled in. I think he did a really good job. So, shout out to him. We're happy to have him back if we ever need be.
He's my guy. Yeah, he's a big motorsport fan, and he took a lot of time to update himself on Formula One because he's really a big IndyCar fan, and so and Australian supercars. He's big into that stuff. So he had to brief himself on F1, and he did a great job.
Yeah, man, he absolutely crushed it. I really enjoyed his insights, especially being an outsider, kind of first time really watching the races. So he had a lot of good insights.
Yeah, that was cool. Tell us, though, about you. How was Long Beach?
Yeah, man, as you can see, I attended the 50th Long Beach Grand Prix. Absolutely awesome. Long Beach is something I've been doing ever since I was a kid. And it's a really great track. Like if you ever are thinking about going to see an IndyCar race or even an IMSA race, Long Beach is a really good place to do it. Basically everywhere you sit is a really good spot to watch. I always end up sitting up in the hairpin area for those that know Long Beach. So you can watch them come around the two left-handers into the right hand. You can watch them like jet down, going down the front straight, and if you can even call it a front straight, really. Or even diving into the pits, there's always something a little hairy going on. But it was really good. I really enjoyed myself. I didn't get sunburned, so that's always a bonus. Made sure to wear lots of sunscreen. But it was a good time. It was great to see family and everybody else.
That's awesome, man. So a couple things. I'm hoping that next year I can come out. So I don't know if you're planning to go again next year, but I'm hoping I can go out there for that. And there's a couple other Indy races that I want to get to. I really want to go see Laguna Seca one day, and then I'm from Portland, Oregon. That's my hometown, and so I want to go see them race around Portland International. So I kind of planning to do that. But one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, and maybe you can confirm or deny this for me. My understanding is that IndyCar is a lot more accessible than like Formula One, right? Like you can kind of get up close to the paddock, and it seemed like you paid a little extra to maybe get a photo pass or something like that, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's right. So I've recently taken up the hobby of photography, and so they at least at Long Beach they have a pass where you pay a little bit extra, and you can get sort of like essentially a spectator photo pass. So you get a few areas that you can go to. It doesn't give you full access to the track, which is a little unfortunate. But it got me into the pits, which was super awesome.
Awesome.
But the way Long Beach is set up, where the IMSA paddock is, anybody can walk in and out of there. So you can get 2 feet away from everybody. You see the drivers walking around, you see the cars really up close, all the mechanics working on it. And a lot of the people there, like, if they, I don't want to say they have downtime because they really don't have any downtime there. But, if you try and talk to like some of the mechanics there, like they're usually pretty friendly. And then you can also get up close with the drift cars. You can walk right up to them. They also have the stadium super trucks. You can just walk right up to them and hang out with them. And this year they had historic, so they had historic Formula One cars there. And they also had a handful of Indy cars that you can just walk right up and see them working on it. As far as IndyCar goes, in some ways it's very accessible. The track is pretty big. If you want to pay to get inside the paddock, you can. I think it's only like an extra like $30 or something like that, $40 to get in, which isn't too bad. But you'll see the drivers walking around anyways, so you might be able to happen to catch them. But yeah, it was an overall good time. if you are thinking about doing the photo pass and you're just by yourself, it's a lot of fun because like I said, I got to go into the pits and I got to walk up and down. I ran into Roman Grosjean, uh, got a picture with him, said hi to him. He was really nice. For those that know, I saw Jimmy Vasser. He of course runs the Lexus, and he was very nice too. I just gave him a short hello, wished him good luck, and he was very courteous about it. So yeah, it was a really good time. I really enjoyed myself. I cannot stress just how much fun Long Beach is.
That's awesome. So you sent me some pretty cool pictures. I think if there's any way to incorporate them into the episode when you're editing this together, I think you should. Like they're very cool. What are you using for a camera? Do you have like a DSLR or something nice, or are you just using your phone?
No, so I went really basic. I bought a secondhand Canon. For those that know, Canon SL3. So it's sort of like a lower mid-range camera, just kind of like an intro camera. And it's been good so far. I got some great shots with it. We'll see how how much I want to spend and upgrade. Which you can when you're into photography, the sky's the limit. So
yeah.
But I did spend quite a bit on my lens, so I'm using one of their L line lenses to get some decent shots, and that has really made a difference. So
nice.
We'll see.
Yeah, I've got a little Canon PowerShot, which is not a nice camera. It's just like small and portable. And I wouldn't say I've like gotten into photography, but like I like to go hiking and do outdoor stuff, and so like I take it with me when I go do that. And it might do okay at if I was to take it and go shoot a race. but yeah, I'm always kind of looking. My wife has a better one, and maybe I should take that when I go to Austin this year and try to snag some pictures of stuff.
Definitely do it, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So Roman Grosjean, so he's not racing this year in Indy, is he?
No, he is a reserve driver for the team's gonna slip my name. Prema. Okay. So the team that Callum Ilott is at, and right. Robert Schwartzman, I believe. They're the two drivers. Them, of course, coming from F2 and making the jump over. Struggling this season, unfortunately. I think there's definitely room for improvement with Prema.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Grosjean, of course, former F1 driver, had probably the freakiest accident. I mean, since what? Senna? I don't know. Like I thought he was a dead man when we watched that race, which was in Bahrain.
That was Bahrain, yeah.
And his car exploded. I mean, I don't think Hollywood could have made a more dramatic car wreck. He got clipped, or back wheel was going at a high rate of speed straight into a barrier, which was a kind of like a split metal barrier like this, and his car went right in between. Surely the halo saved his life. His car got ripped in half, which ignited his fuel. And he was just in a ball of fire and had to unbuckle himself from the car and jump out, and made it out with some pretty significant burns on his hands. But overall, it could have been a lot worse. Crazy thing that happened about 3-4 years ago. And then after that, his racing career in F1 was pretty much over, I think, at that point. And then when he recovered from the crash, ended up as an IndyCar driver. And I don't know, I don't know that he ever won any races for Indy when he was driving for Indy, did he? He wasn't bad. He was kind of a middling driver.
Yeah, he definitely didn't make any friends in IndyCar, unfortunately. But watching over the years, he's had a couple good races, but as far as standing on the top step, I don't think he ever did that, which is unfortunate. He is a good driver. Mm-hmm. He has the talent, but it fluctuates so much. Some days he was really, really good, and other days he's just didn't seem to have it. He wasn't a consistent driver.
Yeah. interesting. He was um, I think the first race that I remember watching him in IndyCar was uh, at Long Beach, and he crash. He crashed at one of those corners, and he took somebody else out with him. I'm trying to remember who it was. Anyway, yeah. You said he didn't make any friends in IndyCar. We can talk to Patrick about that. As a big IndyCar fan, he has a couple of gripes about Grosjean. Anyway, yeah. Well, so it's an off week this week. We don't have a race. We had Jeddah, kind of my favorite track last week, which of course we recapped, and now we're kind of looking forward to Miami coming up. And so it's kind of weird to not have a race on a week.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And so we'll definitely have an episode recapping Miami next week. But let's get into our Formula One talk, James. What do you think?
Yeah, man. It's really sad that we don't have a race this week. I feel sort of slighted that I've missed the last two, and now that I'm back, there's no race to talk about. But I went back and looked at the Miami Grand Prix from last year, and I forgot what a decent race it actually was. It of course was a sprint weekend, so the sprint race had a little bit of chaos. Lando Norris was taken out in turn 1, which was unfortunate, but Miami Grand Prix was significant because in the feature race, it was Lando Norris's first ever Formula One win, standing on the top step, coming like everything that he's worked for. It was finally in that moment, and he finally got it. I was so elated for him to get that first win.
Yeah. I mean, I was just reading an article today about Lando. Real nice piece by James Hinchcliffe about him. Really, what it was about was Lando's nice guy persona. We've talked about this, or at least I have, on the podcast. This discussion about being a cutthroat or a killer instinct type driver, and James Hinchcliffe was kind of making the case that Lando has made it a point to do it his way, and he's probably going to win a lot more races, may even win a championship, and he will not have had to resort to just being brutal out there. So that was good, and a good counterbalance to the points I've been making, because my doubt about Lando has been, does he have enough grit, enough ferocity to not necessarily play nice, like we've seen Max be that way. We've seen even, I think, Oscar be that way. And so anyway, I thought it was cool that he got that win, and I think to that point, he kind of had this knack of being on pole and then not converting it to race wins. In fact, he got a nickname like No Wins Lando or something like that, and he got this this habit of losing pole, like losing P1 after even just the first lap, like he wasn't leading. He'd start on pole and then not lead the race. In this case, Max started on pole, but he ended up winning. But Lando ended up winning, and I think there was a little bit of luck and safety. I think a safety car maybe that helped him out. So yeah, I mean, but it was definitely the quality of his drive. It wasn't just the strategy happened to fall into their lap, but yeah, Lando. Let's keep cheering for Lando, or at least I will, as a McLaren fan, and I think I would love to have him prove me wrong that you have to be a kind of a jerk to be a to be a champ. I'd love to see him be able to maintain that nice guy attitude and not resort to some of the cutthroat tactics that others have had to do to be a champ.
Yeah, I agree. Last year he did have that struggle where, he would qualify first and then immediately lose it in the first corner or in the first lap. And they just didn't have the race pace for whatever reason. But yeah, he did get lucky last year. It was Logan Sargent and Kevin Magnussen that came together Uh, if you remember, K Mag was super aggressive at the opening races of last season, and it came to a head in Miami where he was battling with Hamilton, and Hamilton just could not get by him, which was the strangest thing to watch in the moment. You know, K Mag had a really aggressive driving style, and they were both going off and like really close to coming together a handful of times, and then it just came to a head when K Mag went up against Logan Sargent, and they just collided. Took Sargent out of the race, which was unfortunate. You know, him of course being American, I'm American. I want an American to do really well, and we just haven't in the past few years, which is super sad to say. But you know, there will come a time where we'll get an American back on the top step. I'm sure of it.
Well, could be as soon as next year. I mean, I don't know that they'll be contending for podiums necessarily, but yeah, there's some stuff swirling with Cadillac joining the field and trying to snag like a Colton Herta or somebody like that.
Yeah, it definitely could. We'll see how it goes, especially when Cadillac start making their own engines.
Yeah, speaking of K-Mag, do you know what he's doing? K-Mag was kind of a crusty personality in Formula One. I think he's known for being pretty aggressive, not just as a driver, but personality-wise. And he's Danish, right?
Kevin Magnussen, yeah.
I wonder if there's place for K-Mag out in IndyCar at all. Join his buddy.
There's plenty of Formula One drivers that have made the jump. So, I of course am wearing my Nigel Mansell shirt, probably the most famous to do so. Him, of course, winning the '92 championship with Williams, and then the '93 championship with Newman Haas, I think it was, in IndyCar. Absolutely crushed it.
That's cool. Yeah, he's a big name in motorsport for sure. Maybe we get back to Miami. Sorry, I took us on a little bit of a jaunt there. I took the runoff there on that turn. Okay, so I guess as we are getting prepared to come into the race, maybe a little recap of where we stand with the points and everything. A few notes that I had. Fernando Alonso hasn't scored a point yet this season. Now he didn't finish 2 or 3 races, so that hurt him. But he hasn't scored. In fact, Stroll has 10 points.
Stroll has 10 points and is sitting in 10th in the championship. I know on my last episode with you, we sort of bashed him at how bad he was, but he's in the top 10 in the standings. So who are we to say?
Yeah, maybe we've been too harsh on Lance. I don't know. He also set that record, I think, that just showed up that people were talking about, most Q1 exits of all time.
Yeah, another driver that just does not have the consistency that we need.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got no points for Alonso. We've got Piastri is leading by about 10 points over Lando. I think it's 10-point lead. And then followed up P3. Who's P3? I have it written down. I have to find it.
It's Max Verstappen.
Oh, Max, yes.
And P3, super close behind Lando Norris, who's sitting in second.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a couple of points separating them, 2-3 points, something like that.
Yeah, it's very close.
Okay, so there's our top 3. We've got some other things that I noted. Hadjar, Sainz, and Tsunoda are all on 5 points each. Hulkenberg, Gasly, Behrman all on 6 points each. So it seems like there's a battle for the top 3, and then it kind of tapers off after that. Let's see. The team
Albon is sitting in 8th. This is the best start that Williams has had in 9 years, I think it was. 2016 they had 65 points after 5 rounds. But between 2014 and last year, they only had a total of 26 points total for all those seasons.
Yeah,
So
so Albon's got 20 points all by himself, which is that is good for Williams. I mean, that's production. He's 11 points behind Hamilton in 7th. And this is kind of a weird thing to say, but Lewis is behind Antonelli by 7 points. So Antonelli's in P6. So that kind of brings me to the next thing that I was going to talk about, which is a rookie recap. Antonelli clearly having points wise the best outing this year. He's got 38 points. He's in P6. And the next rookie point scorer is Behrman at P13. So Antonelli of the rookies is blowing everybody out of the water. Now he's got the car, like the others are. I mean, Behrman with 6 points in a Haas is not a bad deal. But anyway, yeah. So it's Antonelli, the rookies: Antonelli P6, Behrman P13, Hadjar with 5 points P14. The other three are bringing up the rear, like 18, 19, 20. So that's Lawson, Doohan, Bortoleto at the bottom. None of them have scored. So that's us coming into that's some kind of the recap of the drivers, I guess. Is there anybody that I missed that's noteworthy?
I think just highlighting Isaac Hadjar, um, because he's outperforming Lawson. Um, at least in the point standings, Lawson's yet to score any points, and he was in Red Bull. He's just having a really rough season. Him and Lewis Hamilton really need to get to grips with this year's car and sort it out.
I think Lawson's going to make a rebound. I just think it's a matter of at what point, And I think that they did him dirty and got in his head because he had the most experience, I think, of any of the rookies. And I think you even, to the extent, didn't want to call him a rookie this year because he drove enough races last year. I feel like he has to finish, 20 races to be considered not a rookie anymore, even if it's split across 2 years. But yeah, I think he's going to figure something out because I was moderately impressed with him last year, So I think something's in his head.
Well, we did a recap early on of him and Yuki Tsunoda, and they were pretty stinking close last year, in terms of their finishes and their points and their driving styles and where they were. But he just, for whatever reason, this year he's just fallen off, and I think you're right. It might be a confidence thing. I think he got into his own head, and he just crumbled under the pressure. So I really hope he can rebound because I really like him. I think he's a good driver. I think he's a good personality. I think there's a lot for him to do. He just needs to step up. He needs whatever that little switch is. Someone needs to find it and flick it for him and get him back out there.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen is something's going to click for him and he'll kind of shake it off, I think the thing that it was the struggles in the Red Bull and then just getting immediately demoted out of there probably broke him a little bit. But I think these guys are resilient. I think they're young, and probably to be a Formula One driver, you kind of have to have that short memory, they say, where, so let's see if he can get on the horse. But you're right. Hadjar is doing well in that Racing Bull, and
well, he finished in 10th last race, right? In Jeddah, he just finished out. He just finished out the top 10. So yeah, I mean, he's getting every little point that he can.
It's really making me. I mean, looking back to Australia, it's like, how much more could he have done if he would have actually been able to compete in that race? And then, but it's also a good news story in that, like, that could have wrecked a guy, right? Like, he goes out there, he's looking so forward to his first race and doesn't even make it past the formation lap, or really turn one of the formation lap, and embarrassed himself in a worldwide audience, and was able to still kind of like put that away and get back out there. So that's good news. That's what I'm talking about. Kind of like I'm hoping will happen with Lawson. Probably the Lawson incident was a little bit more embarrassing even than the the Lawson getting demoted was a little more embarrassing than even the Hadjar spin out. I mean, anybody can understand stepping a little too much on that gas in the wet and then
And the rain
hitting
caught
the wall.
everybody out, right?
Yeah,
It caught some veterans out.
that's true. Alonso was a victim of the rain,
And so
and
was Signs.
yep. So
But I
um,
just like quickly on Hadjar, like he keeps floating around the top 10, which is super impressive because in China, I'm just looking at my notes here, he finished in 11th. And that was his first race back after Australia. And then in Japan, he actually managed to get in the top 10, finishing 8th. Bahrain, he just missed out on it again, coming in 13th. And he was he was about 8 seconds back from 10th. So it's not too bad. Saudi Arabia in the top 10 again. So I think in Miami, it might be safe to say, he's going to be right there in 10th or just right behind it, seeing how Miami goes. Miami, I think every Miami Grand Prix has had a yellow flag at some point. So that'll definitely shake things up. I think that'll be something teams are looking to, plan into their strategy. When it'll happen is hard to say. Probably turn one if I had to guess. There will be an incident in turn one.
we've seen such a wide variety this year of durability on the tires and what tires are working well. I mean, I feel like in the last race the hards could like go super far. So I think every week tire strategy seems to be bopping around, and that'll be huge if we're talking safety car. If the hard tires, this is a thing that I think is coming into play. If the hard tires end up as a good option, right? Like if they last long and they seem to have good grip, which seems super track specific, um, then the timing of that safety car becomes a huge factor. Like if it's early and someone can go on to a hard and get to the end of the race on a hard tire, that really shakes things up, or makes it an interesting strategy call. So I'm curious. I don't know. Do you know if I can't remember. I'm not thinking off the top of my head what kinds of tires people used in the last Miami Grand Prix. But anyway,
It is a one-stop race, like almost all the races are. So,
yeah,
if I had to guess, they would start on the medium and then switch to the hard.
yeah.
If I had to guess, there might be some bold people that would start on the softs and then move over to the hards. It's really hard to say. Just looking at it right now, it looks people from last year, Albon made a pit stop on 10, and he was the first to go. And then there were a few people that came in around lap 20. So lap 20 to 30 is about when everybody pit.
That sounds like a medium.
So that sounds like a medium to me, with the exception of Albon and a handful of other lower drivers that were on the softs to start.
It seems like a start on a soft, try to play for track position early, and then pit.
Hopefully get that yellow within the first 10 laps, I think is
Yeah.
what you plan for. Because then you can just switch to the hard and run it the rest of the race. But I think the medium is going to be the way to go to start. I don't profess to be have all the knowledge about tire strategy.
Well, who does? I mean, even these guys make mistakes. These big name teams. So
yeah, I'm not that technical. Maybe I should be. Maybe I should start paying attention to the tires.
Well, it's
give us something else to talk about.
It's such an interesting thing, and the tires such a big strategy. There's there's a lot of math involved in Formula One strategy, right? Like looking at times, trying to estimate how long a tire is going to last, and then how much the race pace is going to change based on the type of tire, right? So like if you're gaining a second a lap on a medium over a hard, and then doing the math to figure out, well, when is that going to end up, where's that going to end up putting me? Then you're also looking at trying to get some data from the other teams, even, right? You're saying, okay, who's out there on this type of tire or that, and then looking at their lap times and trying to figure out which tire is right. And then, the call can be wrong if your car isn't wearing the tire as well as another car, so like, it's just it's a lot. I don't know how these guys do it in the heat of the moment like that and try to make those kinds of calls.
Yeah, something interesting about that. So I was talking to a photographer at the Long Beach Grand Prix, and he also does Formula One. And he told me a little interesting tidbit that the teams will hire photographers specifically just to take pictures of like the tires and the body work. Uh, and so they'll text them or message them on the radio or something like that and be like, hey, like we need a really zoomed in picture of like the back left tire to see what it's doing. And so they'll take a picture and send it to him like right away, and that'll help determine the strategy.
Oh, that is a cool insight. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either, but it makes sense.
Wow. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, at that high speed, you can't see sometimes the blistering, right? Or the even further wear than just blistering. And so I guess that makes sense if you have a really high speed camera or something, and you can get a shot that where they can see like, okay, these tires are wearing worse than others or whatever. Yeah. Interesting. That's super cool. Better keep working on it, man. That'll be
I
your
know,
next job.
something to aspire to, I guess. Just taking pictures of tires.
What a heck of a job. I mean, these sports are so big and there's so much money in them, and there's so much money riding on these things that uh there's just ins and outs that we have no idea, that that they're doing. That would be sick, to be down there in the kind of by where the marshals are, taking pictures of these cars while they go by. Man, what a gig.
Yeah, I guess it is something to aspire to.
Yeah, well,
Especially if you're getting paid Formula One money to do it.
I know. I wonder how much those guys make. I would maybe that's what we need to be working towards for retirement. We'll once we're retired and free of having to work, we can go take our cameras and be Formula One photographers.
Living the
Okay.
dream.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we talked about the drivers' standings, the constructor standings. McLaren well out in front, 77 points up on Mercedes. So McLaren's at 188 points.
That's a
Mercedes
huge gap.
Yeah, pretty substantial gap. Merc is at 111, and then Red Bull is at 89, so 22 points behind Mercedes, and then Red Bull is up 11 points on Ferrari. Interestingly, 11 factors of 11. So Ferrari is behind by 11, Red Bull is behind by 22, Mercedes behind by 77. That's kind of a weird coincidence. I don't know if you've ever heard of the theory of the 11s, but supposedly some sort of significant number. You should look that up. But yeah, that's the top four: McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari. I think this is who we expected to be in the top four. And I would say that the race for P2 is pretty tight. I mean,
yeah, I think it also highlights the problem with the F1 point system, because I like second through 10th, right? Because at second is 18 points, and then it goes down to 15, down to 12. And then that's where it starts to jump to 2 points, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and then down to 1 point for 10th, which I think is fair. But between first and second, it's 25 to 18. That's a whopping 7 points. That's a huge jump from, and then everybody else is like 3 or 2 points behind. I think they should shorten that gap. Honestly, I don't think it should be 7 points. I think it should be maybe 5 points above it. I think that would, make it a little more interesting in the long run for the points race.
Yeah, I think you're right. It really values that win, right? And I would say, probably shorten that up. And well, it hasn't always been this format, right? Like it used to be only a top 8 were score
For the sprint
points.
races, it's the top 8, I think, that get points.
That's true. For the sprints, it's just a 1 point straight from 8 down to, or from 1 down to 8. But I think it didn't used to even be like, listening to some, I didn't watch it back when the scoring was different, but I think in the past it didn't used to be 10 scoring positions. I don't know when it changed. Um, Obviously they changed it for a reason, so maybe they think this is better. But yeah, I agree. Like maybe I it. I was talking to my wife, she is not like a fan, but she's trying to get into this, right? And we were talking about the point spread, and she had a good point that we value podiums. Why isn't there more of a substantial drop between third and fourth? That to me would make some sense too if we're valuing the podium, right? So we maybe instead of um, lowering P1 down, maybe we bump up P2 and 3 and make more of a gap for people that finish off the podium. If we really value podiums, which seems like we do, we put them up there and spray them with champagne. So
Yeah, you're right. In the early thousands, they would do. Well, it'd only go up to 10 points, and then it would drop down. Only the top 8 would get it, right? But I don't know. I like that they put it up to 25 and then went all the way down to 10th. If I was in charge of the point system, I would do sort of like that where you separate it by like 3 points and then 2 points and then 1 point. But I would make it so everybody got a point. So whoever's in finishes 20th, 20 cars, they would get a point. And then, when the field grows to 22 or 24 cars, you'd have to obviously restructure it. But I think it would make it a lot more interesting because then you could come in last. But then if you have like a really good weekend and get like ninth out of the blue, it would really shake up the order and make it a little more competitive because then you're going to have to keep trying to hold that, right?
yeah, I think there's definitely some merit to what you're saying, and it is really frustrating to see a car, have a good drive, end up 11th, and just get nothing. So I can I think there's a lot of ways they could change the scoring to make it more interesting. I'm kind of happy they took away the fastest lap point. Uh, it doesn't
Well,
seem
I think they should have made the fastest lap for everybody instead of just having to be in the top 10.
yeah, that would have been, I think, a better way to do it. But it doesn't seem it seems out of place as far as like scoring to me. Like we're just gonna give this person a point just because they took the fastest lap. And what ended up happening was there was a little bit of strategy with that point, right? Like so that made it a little interesting. But it was like, you'd have somebody, if there was a big enough gap, they would pit for softs at the end of the race, try to just go out there and gun it for one lap. And it's not even particularly like race pace is so much slower, right, than a one shot qualifying lap. So it shouldn't even be that hard to steal a fastest lap if you have no other thing to gain. You're just gonna put a soft tire on and go out there and go fast, for one lap. And then, you had some gamesmanship with some non-point scorers even stealing that from a point scoring team that would have grabbed an extra point. And I don't know. I guess that was what they were hoping, is that little bit of strategy would be an interesting thing, but I didn't feel like it was worth it to me. I would rather see them award points for taking pole position, I think, than doing fastest lap, because that's like kind of the same thing, right? It's a true fastest lap when you're doing it in qualifying. You're not trying to do race pace, compete with
Yeah,
everybody in the
I
race.
like the idea of miscellaneous points. I think it did shake it up, especially because I feel like F1 is so straightforward just in terms of racing, right? Because the pit stops, although they do play a strategy, it's not as big as they used to be because you don't have to refill the cars now. It's all just straight tires. So that sort of takes it away from it. You can go watch races from the early thousands, even the 90s, and they were pitting like 2-3 times and having to refill the car. And it made for way more interesting strategy calls. But I like that they had the fastest lap. I wish they would have made it for everybody. Another one they could have done was maybe like fastest pit stop.
Yeah,
I
like
think you
that.
could give. I think you give like a point for that too, right? Especially because the points are so truncated. You're only going up to 25, so 1 point is everything to some of these teams,
Yeah.
especially if you're on the lower end. Can you imagine, last year like Williams or Sauber getting like, they put on softs like at the last minute and get the fastest lap, and then they also get the fastest pit stop. It would have shaken up the whole order towards the bottom of the grid.
I like the idea of the fastest pit stop. I would, if I was going to do fastest pit stop, I would make it a constructor's point somehow, like, and it would just go to the constructors, not necessarily the drivers, right? So
That's a good one too.
But yeah, I think that would be sweet, because those pit crews, that would give them more stake in the, more skin in the game, so to speak, which I think is great, because they are so key to this, and there's very little spotlight on them, right? We don't know. I don't know the names of a single pit crew member in the whole thing. I recognize a couple of their faces. Like, there's a guy with dreadlocks that's on the Red Bull, and he's like this huge guy. Like, that guy I recognize. He stands out. But
there's also the ripped Italian dude in the Ferrari pit stop garage. I recognize that dude. He gets a lot of screen time.
So yeah, that would be cool to give them a little bit more to play for, I think. And these pit stops are freaking incredible. I mean, what a feat of teamwork and coordination and just, I mean, precision. You heard us talking, the last couple times, last couple episodes here. Red Bull's pit crew something's been going on with them. Their pit stops haven't been fantastic, and it's actually kind of got the team affected the team a little bit. I wonder if they're gonna get back on the horse here, because they're known for usually pulling some pretty fast stops. Have to kind of keep an eye on them.
Absolutely. Well, maybe that's a good segue. Red Bull trying to fix their pit stops coming into Miami. What are your bold predictions coming up to this race for Miami? It's a doubleheader weekend. They're doing a sprint race and they're doing the feature race, of course. Do you have any bold predictions for the sprint? Or are you gonna just do feature race?
I didn't make any bold predictions for the sprint. All my bold predictions were for the feature race. But I mean, I could try to think of something. Do you have something for the sprint? If you go first,
I never make a bold prediction for the sprint. It's too chaotic. There's no way.
I mean, I think there's a very good chance that Piastri is going to win that sprint. It's not really a bold prediction, but I mean, he just seems like he's in great form. So I'll be looking to see if Piastri takes pole and wins the sprint race.
If I was a betting man, that's where I'd put all my money, is on Piastri right now. That dude is flying.
Yeah. He's coming into a very good period of his career at the moment. Let's say maybe I think Gasly is gonna score points in the sprint. How about that? That's pretty bold. That's
a pretty good one.
P8 or better.
He's been on the rise.
Now, Pierre crashed out last week. Remember, I predicted that a couple of races ago, he was going to break his streak, his no damage to the vehicle streak. And I think the jury's still out on whether that was really Pierre's fault. I don't know if you had anything to chime in on that. Patrick and I really kind of covered it last week, but it was a pass on Yuki, and then when they were settling that pass, Yuki's front right into Pierre's back left and spin out, hit the wall. Did Pierre come back across too soon, or was that Yuki's fault?
I would chalk it up just to a racing incident, quite honestly, because if I remember correctly, it was turn 1, right? It was the very start of the race. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it
Or
was.
was it further? It was further in.
It was further in, but it was at the. It was like it might have been at turn 1 or 2.
Okay.
Doesn't it kind of like go right or right left or left right there?
It goes left right, sharp left, hard right. So if it was at the start of the race, like I think it was, I would say it was a racing incident. I think Yuki would have seen that he pushed. He may have not have seen that he pushed him off, and if he did, he might have thought, well, he'll probably just cut it instead of trying to make it. So I'm probably not even remembering that correctly. I'd have to go back and watch it. But I remember seeing it, and I don't think it was his fault. I would chalk it up to a racing incident.
I feel like there was equal blame, so I'm putting it on Pierre that he caused damage to the car. Like, it was, my first thought was, oh man, Yuki hit him, but then as I rewatched it, it was during an overtake. So Pierre was going around Yuki, and so it was like, I don't know, Pierre, when he came back to the left, it was like he didn't fully clear Yuki all the way. I don't know if Yuki was supposed to brake in that moment or what, but he came back across him, I thought, a little bit too soon to try to complete the pass. So that was what I thought, but I don't really know. I don't think that anybody got penalized. At least I didn't hear about it. So it was probably just the FIA thought it was a racing incident as well. So yeah, poor Pierre. He went a whole season plus several races and then finally damaged the vehicle. But I think he's going to get back on the horse because he was doing well before that happened. You know, he had been on a run of pretty good form, and so I'm going to guess that he's going to get at least 1 point out of the sprint race.
Yeah, so it wasn't the first turn. I just looked it up right now, and I'm going to chalk it up to a racing incident, maybe a little extra leaning towards Yuki's side. It looks like he could have given him just a little bit more room, maybe just tap the brake a little more, let off the gas. So I don't know if it's I don't know if it's entirely his fault.
It was literally one wheel's width of space, right? Like, you know, like a millisecond. If you gave a millisecond up, that doesn't happen. Pierre takes the position and they're done. But or the move is done, I should say. So really hard to say. And I don't, like I said, I probably a little more Yuki's fault. I was ready to let Pierre off the hook. I don't know how they determine that kind of stuff. Like, but I thought Pierre was enough at fault that it was like, well, or there was enough doubt that I was like, okay, this guy, he did it. He broke his streak. I missed it by a couple of races. But anyway, okay. So that, yeah, my calls for the sprint race, Oscar pole and win for the sprint, and then Gasly in the points for the sprint. So that's what I came up with spur of the moment.
Fair enough. For my bold predictions, I'm gonna say Lando will win the feature race. He'll make a comeback and win, just like he did last year. Number 1. And then I'm gonna predict that Verstappen gets taken out in turn 1. I feel like somebody just needs to give him a little nudge, and I think whoever's right behind him is the person to do it. But I'm also going to make the super bold prediction that Hamilton is going to finish ahead of Leclerc. Hamilton's finally going to figure it out this race, and he's gonna finish up there.
Yeah, that's a good one, and I kind of hope you're right. I really have grown to like Charles Leclerc, so I don't want to see him necessarily get beat by his teammate, but I also am, really interested in the Lewis Hamilton story, and I want to see him do well, and I want to see him, figure this out. So I like that one.
Nice. Yeah, those are my bold predictions. I think those are plenty bold enough.
Yeah,
And
those are pretty good.
I
I mean,
think
Lando.
next week we'll have to definitely recap all of our bold predictions and see where we are. It's a mixed result. I think it's more incorrect than correct so far this season, which is the way it should be, right? They wouldn't
With
be
bold
bold if they were
predictions, yeah.
always right.
Yeah, you've heard me say it before. You got to go big if you're going bold. You gotta come up with some really legit stuff. Which I'm not sure that Lando winning the race is super bold, but I think I would like to see that as well. Like I want him. Maybe it becomes a thing like his track is Miami or something like that. For the feature race, my bold predictions. I think Alonso's going to get in the points. So he hasn't scored a point. Alonso in the points. Let's see if that happens. And then I've got a couple that are really outlandish. I mean, Alonso scoring some points, getting P10 isn't that outlandish now. Last year, Checo finished P4 in the Miami Grand Prix. Okay, so his successor, Yuki Tsunoda, is going to match that or better. So P4 for Yuki or better. So, that's pretty bold because Yuki's been nowhere near that all year. So I think that's pretty good. Yuki, by the way, finished P7 last year in the Racing Bulls car. And then I had one more, and that was that Antonelli's going to get his first podium. So we'll watch for Antonelli. Now that one, again, Antonelli's been driving well, but my podium, you can see my top four is getting pretty tight if we think Yuki's going to be P4, and then the McLarens aren't to be trifled with. So, there we go. There's my bold. Antonelli gets his first podium. Yuki P4 or better, and Alonso scores points.
Fair enough, man. I think those are pretty sneaking bold, especially Alonso getting the first points. Yeah. I think it'll be a miracle. I mean, if Stroll can do it, Alonso can do it, right? That's my thing.
So,
that's my thinking behind it.
Yeah, you'd like to think that he's got it. I'd be shocked if he win the whole season with no points, and I think now, he could get him in the sprint race too, I guess. But I'm guessing feature race is where Alonso's going to sneak in there and get some points. But I am really looking forward to this Miami Grand Prix. It's been weird to not have a race to watch over the weekend. I haven't really settled myself on how much I really enjoy the Miami Grand Prix yet. It's kind of like Vegas, where I'm not 100% sold on it yet. Although I will say I've pretty much enjoyed the Vegas Grand Prix. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Miami. It seems like a cool party atmosphere there for the spectators, so that's kind of cool. But yeah.
But other than that,
yeah,
it's okay. The track, I think I think the more the drivers go to it, I think the more they're comfortable with it. I think the first year they were there, they were almost sort of tiptoeing around it and didn't really know the overtaking areas and didn't know how far they could push the cars on the track. Last year was some great racing, so I'm really hoping we can see some good racing this year. But that remains to be seen. But I will say, it's good to be back. I can't wait to talk to you again next weekend about the Miami Grand Prix and be back on the pod. I've missed it.
Yeah, it's kind of become a habit now. It's weird.
This is episode 10.
Oh wow! Yeah, hey, it's a milestone.
It's a milestone. Our first milestone.
Yeah,
10 episodes
into the double digits now. Yeah, well, it's good to have you back, and it's fun to talk. And yeah, we'll just reconvene again next week, and we'll have some serious racing to talk about. And we'll have to adjudicate our bold predictions and see how we did.
Sounds good, man. Well, I've got to run, but it's been really good talking to you. So I'll see you later.
All right, adios, James.
Bye.